Kanye. So that was definitely inciting me to violence. So anyway, that's not cool.
Just to hang on, but you mentioned in a good way.
Well, no, it's just that like it could be like an analysis of the Second World War or something. That's a history drama, or whatever.
It's contextual.
Yeah,
right?
It's like okay, like let's a battlefield or something, and that's got so some sort of war history thing. I don't know, something like that. Then that would be okay. But
it has to be contextual. I mean, if he's posting it in a way that is trying to rally people to anti-Semitic views, then yeah.
I mean, it's like you can also say like, okay, well, let's look for added context outside of Twitter to say like, well, was this meant in a friendly way? And it's like, okay, well, no, he's saying that he likes Hitler and other things. And look, at the point at which Alex Jones is like telling Kanye to calm down and please stop. You have to say, okay, Alex Jones is pretty edgy. So like Alex Jones is saying Kanye wants Kanye to stop. That's a big deal. So anyway, but I don't want to get into like some sort of huge this could easily get derailed into a laborious.
Agreed. Yeah, we should talk more about the file. So you mentioned that you gave it to Barry Weiss, right? So she has full access. Does this mean that we are going to see multiple exposés, not just ones from Matt Taibbi?
Yeah, the point is to just have everything come clean. So the thing is that like it's not that people would necessarily agree with everything that Twitter has done in the past or in the future, but they should at least know that it is occurring and there's no shady stuff that is happening that they're unaware of. So then at least if Twitter is explicit about its actions and transparent, you can then appropriately calibrate your interpretation of what you learn on Twitter, as opposed to thinking, Twitter pretending to be unbiased and even-handed. There's a way to get everyone to agree with all the actions that Twitter will take. That's impossible. That is a null set. But what it is possible to do is to be fully transparent about the actions that are taken. Give me a break.
Elon, you're back.
He's back.
You dropped out for a bit. Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear us, Elon? Or it's not? It's still glitching a bit. Can you hear me?
I'm about to take off.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, carry on.
This turned into a Verizon commercial really quick. I just wanted to ask Elon really quick if there's any way to combine Twitter's efforts with people who have gone, as far as filing constitutional challenges. Is there any way to get them in touch with Matt and combine the efforts there?
Possibly. I'd reach out to Matt. And I mentioned, I've also asked Barry Weiss to, I've given her access. I just gave Barry Weiss access to the Twitter files like an hour ago. I think at some point it might make sense to just have them publicly available, so that anyone can look at them.
A quick side question.
The idea
sorry, go ahead.
Is the general thing we're aiming for is anything bad that Twitter's done in the past that it be surfaced so as to instill trust about Twitter in the future. And the thing where I may have blanked out a moment ago is that it is impossible for Twitter to take the set of actions that will satisfy all people, or probably even 90% of people. But what Twitter can do that is unequivocal is be completely transparent about its action and what is it doing, what is it not doing, how does the algorithm work, and if an account is suspended, why is it suspended? If an account is deboosted, just showing that it's been deboosted or search banned, and giving a reason for that, so that there's maximum transparency in the system, so that even if you disagree with what's going on Twitter, you at least can calibrate what you learn on Twitter based on what Twitter's doing, not have a situation where Twitter is claiming to be fair and even-handed and then actually is not being so, at least from your perspective. So
do you have plans, Elon, to take Twitter public again in the future?
So Tara's asking, by the way, James Wood, I've sent you an invite. Real James Wood, I've sent you an invite. Check your DMs. Tara's asking if you have any plans to take Twitter public again. And my question, I'll give you another question as well. My question is, what type of pressure, if any, have you faced since releasing the files? Did you hear me, Elon?
It sounds like he is testing the new semi-truck himself.
Can you hear us, Elon? Oh, you're back. You're back. Go ahead, Elon.
I'm airborne right now, so I'm on Starlink, actually. So we'll see how well Starlink works.
Okay.
It's working. It's working well now. It's working well now.
I moved a couple of people down so we can have a more civil, conversation without too many speakers on stage, because there are a couple of important questions that I want to ask you. The first one is, obviously with your move of full transparency, you are putting the groundworks in place to justify why free speech on Twitter is so important and why you are making the decisions, of, for example, a great amnesty for all users, and by showing that abuse has happened in the past and that Twitter, before it was under your control, was abusing their power. You're basically setting the stage to say, okay, people should all have their rights, unless they broke the law, restored to be on Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, yes, that is the intent. Now, to be clear, we're all going to be doing this sort of slowly and deliberately. That this can't be a let's open all the jails simultaneously and have at it, guys. So it's going to be slower than people would like. It's more deliberate. I do have a lot of shit going on right now, so
I can imagine.
I'm trying to do the most that I'm flogging my human brain as hard as possible, most amount of work done. But like this week alone, we had a meeting with Macron, yes, some national security.
Oh, Starlink is also failing. Damn it.
Take 2 months instead of 1 month.
2 months instead of 1 month. That's a good timeline.
And also, I got to make sure Twitter is stable from a financial standpoint and it's not losing tons of money and goes bankrupt. In which case, there's juggling a lot of things here, to say the least. But I think over time, not that long of a time, iteratively, we can move Twitter to be a more broadly inclusive so like as many people as possible can participate and want to participate, and as trusted and transparent as possible. And the proof will be in the pudding over time. And we're not going to please everyone. Obviously, that's impossible because, if you say, what are the requests of everyone, you have a Venn diagram intersection of zero. But what can be done is maximum transparency. What can be done is making it clear when something has been deboosted or search banned, when your account has been deboosted or search banned, and why. If an account has been suspended, to be clear about why and whether it's temporary or what the path is to restore the account. And just, I think that's something that can be done and will massively help with trust.
In addition to...
Now, there's obviously a challenge that Twitter's had over time, and I think this is generally an issue with social media, which is that it is digital technologies that require a lot of software to be written, and they've sort of come out of Silicon Valley. Almost all of them in Silicon Valley, with except for Snap is in LA, but it's based in California. But effectively, what is happening is an export of the moral framework of San Francisco to Earth. Kind of a big deal and problematic, because previously, San Francisco, which is pretty far left, the influence would be limited to San Francisco. But now it affects the whole world because of the centralization of information with social media companies, and that's, I think, not good. We need to establish something that is fair and takes into account a wide range of views and doesn't have a tilted playing field towards far left San Francisco. I think there should be a place for they can be on Twitter too, but there should be a wide range of political views and sentiments, and as much as reasonably possible, aim for freedom of speech. Yeah, and generally, I want Twitter to be a force for good for the future of civilization. So
that's okay. Elon, can you tell us approximately how much time you have so that we can get an idea how many questions we can get in?
I don't know, maybe half an hour or so.
Nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's very good. Hey, what I also see happening here is that the mainstream media that was part of covering up this Hunter Biden laptop story is now calling this some kind of fissure that they don't think that there's enough. Obviously they are acting in that way because they themselves are now on fire. That because you have exposed what they have done. What do you have to say to them?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again? I'm in the air, so this is it's not super optimal from an audio standpoint.
He asked you what do you have to say to the media that's sort of downplaying what the Twitter files represent?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So he's asking you, what do you have to say to the media that's downplaying the Twitter files revelations, because they're basically saying it's not a big deal, that it's nonsense, that it's just crap, that you're just doing this for PR. What's your response to them?
He may be having connection issues with you specifically, Ian. There are certain people up here that I can't hear either. So maybe Kim, ask again.
Yeah, Kim, do you want to ask your question again? First, Elon, can you hear us? No, I think he can't hear anybody.
I don't know if it's me.
So he's either in a semi-truck or he is on his plane.
No, he's on his plane. He said he's on his plane. Yeah.
I'm in the air right now. I can hear you. I can hear you again.
Okay,
cool.
Fantastic. So let me just repeat my question. The media, especially the media that downplayed and censored the whole Hunter Biden story, is now trying to downplay your release. Obviously, because they are under fire as well, right? Because they have been exposed by this release. What do you want to say to them? What do you want to say to the media that is trying to turn this into a nothing burger?
Well, they're trying to turn it into a nothing burger because they were complicit in deceiving the American public. And so rather than admit that they lied to the public, they're trying to pretend that this is a nothing burger. Obviously, that's clearly what happened. Yeah, I mean, shame on them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then the other important thing here is that you are basically exposing collusion between a political party and in one file that was released, it was even called the Biden team contacting Twitter. I mean, that is election interference, isn't it?
Yeah, clearly, if Twitter is doing one before an election, shutting down dissenting voices on a pivotal election, that is the very definition of election interference. I mean, what the hell else would you? Of course, it's like, yes. Frankly, Twitter was acting like an arm of the Democratic National Committee. It was absurd.
Well, and that's fantastic that you're releasing that. But isn't Twitter just the tip of the iceberg? Can't we admit now that this would have happened at all big tech companies that are being used to stifle free speech and censor people and try to, destroy stories that are dangerous to their political goals?
No, I mean, the level of collusion is insane. Like Twitter is the one company that is no longer colluding and is no longer just going with the sort of NPC group thing. I don't know. I should probably increase my security or something.
Absolutely. I mean, this is why I hate you so much.
What I find most interesting.
Just a second. That would have been my next question, Elon. How worried are you personally? I mean, you're putting a lot on the line, right? You have all these businesses going. You are out there fighting the good fight for free speech, but there's also certainly a concern on your mind about what the response to this is going to be. Do you feel threatened? Do you feel worried? Like, how do you feel personally about this?
Yeah, and I'll add on to a question I asked as well, Elon. Like, what type of pressure have you faced so far?
Maybe I should be more worried than I am, but I don't know. I think generally, if you do right by the people, then you have the people on your side.
Elon, if you want, you can come to Sweden.
Oh, you dropped out, Thierry. Can you hear me first, Elon, before I give the mic back to Kim?
I lost the signal there.
Yeah, oh good. Yeah, he dropped out. Can you hear me or not? Just so I know, if you can't hear me, I'll give the mic back to Kim. No, you can't hear me. Kim, you take the mic.
I was going to ask him what he thought, really quick, of Senator Warren's response that one person, him, should not have control over the narrative.
Elon, I was saying you can come to Switzerland by...
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not one person has control of the narrative, because there's the entire mainstream media establishment who all talk like groupthink NPC. Facebook, there's Google, there's TikTok. No, the actual problem is there's one person who isn't towing the line. That's the real problem.
Thank you. That's the exact response that we needed.
That's you, yeah. I mean, that's
so. Ian, can you ask him a quick question as well? Because I don't think he can hear me.
As soon as one person doesn't toe the line, now everyone else is looking like,
Well, now we're allowed to, Elon, and that's the issue. Is before we were at risk of being suspended or deplatformed.
You're allowing. I mean, you're showing people that it's possible to.
I mean, this is like competition does keep companies honest. It is a force for keeping companies honest. So if there's a competition for the truth and Twitter wins the competition for the truth, then it will win over the readership and the attention of the public, and everyone else will be forced to tell the truth too.
Do you think that you run the risk of like the EU Commission or any of these other big political bodies trying to take you down when you're doing this?
I do not think this is a risk-free endeavor. But I also think that, like, as long as there's the support of the people, then you have to say, like any organization, at least in the U.S., that it is going to go against the will of the people, I think will be in big trouble themselves.
You know, Elon, you're doing this at such an important time in history because I think people can sense that the censorship is becoming more, that the media is spilling more and more propaganda, that we are heading into a future where free speech isn't really acceptable anymore. And for you, with your audience, to go out there and put this transparency out there, I think a lot of people appreciate that this is a fight that you are taking center stage, in order to fix some of these issues.
No, I mean, frankly, the risk of something bad happening to me, of even literally being shot, is quite significant. I'm definitely not going to be, doing any open air car parades, let me put it that way. But it's also not that hard to kill me if somebody wanted to. So hopefully they don't. And if fate smiles upon, that does not happen. I'm taking reasonable precautions, I guess. But there's definitely some risk here. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think we'll just want to have a future where, we're not oppressed, or our speech is not suppressed, and we can say what we want to say without fear of reprisals. And, as long as you're not like really causing harm to somebody else, then you should be able to say what you want. And that's quite a rare thing, I think as people just take that for granted sometimes, but really throughout history, free speech has been highly unusual. And so we have to fight very hard to keep that because it's such a rare thing. And it's by no means something that's default. It's a controlled speech default, not free speech. And yeah, it does seem incredibly ironic. So many reporters in the media and prominent politicians are calling for restraints on free speech. This is just crazy. It feels like we're in bizarro world here.
Do you think that comes from the way that journalism is taught now in today's schools, in what we would call postmodern journalism, or where do you think that's really coming from?
I mean, I haven't been to journalism school, but it does seem as though that the elite educational institutions have been somewhat infected with an mind virus, which is sort of a set of the woke mind virus. So like you say, how much actual intellectual freedom and how much actual intellectual freedom is there at elite educational institutions where you don't get completely shunned unless you abide by what everyone else thinks, and then what everyone else thinks is you're told what to think, not asked. You're sort of, you must think this. It's not like you have freedom to think and talk as you wish. Yeah.
What's the solution for this? I mean, like, obviously this is
somehow we have to, I think, purge the woke mind virus and have truth be what matters more than anything. I mean, I think it's funny that Harvard's motto and the Harvard Standard, it's Veritas, and the founders of Harvard were right to have that on their shield, the shield of truth. But is Harvard the shield of truth today? Maybe not.
Well,
Elon, so we're all on this space because of our belief in freedom to transact, and obviously Jack was a big Bitcoin Lightning guy. What can you comment on freedom to transact, Bitcoin Lightning, Twitter, anything we can look forward to?
Well, I think that's actually more powerful even than, I think, controlling than censorship, which is control of the monetary system. If you have control of the monetary system and control of transaction, you can literally stop someone from, you can starve people to death, can throw them out of their homes. So we have to be very careful about who's controlling the money system here and what rules and regulations are they going to put on transactions. It seems like PayPal has strayed pretty far from the path of that.
I've been banned from PayPal.
Seems to be moving in the direction of social credit and restricting transactions, and so that's concerning. So, and I do think there is a role for crypto in the future, without speaking to any particular crypto coin, as a means of ensuring that the monetary system does not get completely corrupted. It provides competition to the fiat system, so that if the fiat system becomes overly restrictive, then crypto will grow. Like basically, the better that the fiat works, the less prominent crypto will be, and the worse the fiat system becomes, the more crypto will grow.
Are you concerned about the moves towards central bank digital currencies?
I don't think they know what they're talking about. No, not really.
A lot of people have theorized that FTX and the fallout there was a ploy to push us toward that centralization and the digital dollar.
Fallen flat in its face now.
Correct.
I think they're conflating a few things. First of all, almost all money is digital already. The fiat monetary system, for practical purposes, consists of a series of heterogeneous mainframes running antiquated COBOL. That's the actual money system, by the way. It's kind of embarrassing. It's not like some rickety mainframes running ancient COBOL and running and doing everything in batch mode. That's the actual the fiat monetary system. So,
Elon, can you hear me first? Is it working now or no?
It is digital.
No shit.
But not in a very good way. Whether banks create their own cryptocurrencies, I think people will use the cryptocurrencies that they think will accrue value over time, and not use the ones that don't.
Doge to the moon. Sorry.
Hey, Elon, could you shed some spill the beans on the whole SBF, Binance, and Twitter fundraise?
I think there's not much not many beans to spill here. I had one conversation with SBF in May. It was weird. It was like half an hour. He was just talking like a mile a minute. I think he was clearly on some stimulants, and he kept talking about himself and FTX, and which is weird because the call was supposed to be about Twitter. And I was like, shouldn't you want to ask me some questions about Twitter instead of talking about yourself? And the vibe I got there was like my bullshit meter, was redlining. So I'm like, but everyone kept saying, Morgan Stanley and lots of other people kept saying, oh, SBF is the best, and he's got tons of money, and so that's why I agreed to speak to him. But then like I said, he set up my bullshit meter, which frankly I don't think this was like deep insight wasn't necessary. If someone's calling you to talk about investing in a big transaction, they should be asking questions about the transaction, not talking about themselves and talking at the speed of an auctioneer. So that doesn't require deep insight to figure out that the bullshit factor is high.
So you didn't end up with any client funds accidentally?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Mario is having connection issues, so you're unable to hear him. And Mario, I was going to say my DMs are open if you want to relay comments or questions for Elon there, and I can try to help field those. And also, Alex is one of the accounts that was wrongfully suspended by Twitter, and you fortunately brought back. I wanted to give him the opportunity to ask you a question because he's had his hand up, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Hey, so I was Hunter Lab House. We also cover other requests by the Biden campaign and the DNC to censor individuals.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Alex. We can't hear you.
I can barely hear Alex. Tell
Elon to mute his mic and unmute.
Probably, but I cannot hear him.
Yeah, tell Elon to mute and unmute just so we can hear Alex, because I think Elon's background noise is muting Alex.
Hey, Elon,
someone tell Elon. Elon can't hear me, so you have to tell him Kimotera.
Yeah, I'm telling him that he can't hear you. That's okay.
Can you
just give me 1 second here, real quick? Elon, you said something, really important, and that is that truth matters. And, this is really what this is all about, because without free speech, we don't have truth. And I would like to ask you, what is your opinion about Julian Assange and Edward Snowden? Shouldn't those guys be center stage when it comes to free speech and truth? Shouldn't the U.S. government leave Julian Assange alone and let him be a journalist?
I don't know enough about the Assange situation to give an accurate answer. There are things where, that where national security stuff is involved, I think do need to be kept secret because, where there's like nuclear secrets, there are, there are things where bad actors, if they had access to that information, could do bad things. So
Yeah, but when a journalist exposes war crimes, right? When a government just goes and invades a country and kills people, against international law, when exposures like this are being made, isn't that important so people see the reality of wars and understand how some of that stuff is really bad?
Yeah, I mean, I generally think that people should, like I said, that people should be able to know what's going on in order to make sensible decisions. I just don't know enough about the Assange situation to say whether it should be punished or not punished. But I do think that I'm generally in favor of freedom of information, and like if there's any doubt, we should lean on the side of freedom of information.
And how about Edward Snowden, who has revealed these mass surveillance program where the government is spying on everyone and storing all their data in these massive spy clouds, also against the law, where the Five Eyes are working together to undermine their local laws and their local restrictions on spying, and they just spy on each other and then share the data so that they know everything about everyone. How do you feel about that?
Probably the best thing would be a jury of the public. If Snowden were to be, I don't know. Look, I'm power in this situation, but ultimately the people of the United States should be the ones who judge Snowden, not select people in the government. If a jury of peers of citizens were to review Snowden and make a judgment as to whether he's guilty or not, I think that would probably be the appropriate course of action.
Yeah, the only problem is that if he were to be in a U.S. court, he wouldn't get a fair trial because under Espionage Act laws, you cannot even make a public interest defense. He wouldn't even be able to say, I've done that because it's the right thing for Americans to know about that. So that would be a defense that is not available to him. So to say, a jury of your peers should decide about that, it's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no easy answer to the Snowden Assange situation.
Can I make a suggestion, Elon? Why don't you do a poll to your millions of users and ask them if they think Julian Assange and Edward Snowden should be given their piece for the service that they have provided to humanity?
Okay, that's a good idea. Sure.
I like that idea.
I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a question on Mario's behalf really quick, since he's unable to speak to Elon, which has to be extremely frustrating as the host. He was just curious if you've faced any pressure so far since releasing the Twitter files.
I mean, I face pressure all the time, so it's kind of, it would say like, what's the differential in pressure before and after? Because I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. Maybe there's pressure, but I might just not be feeling it because there's every day is a high pressure situation. But I don't know. Well, like I said, we're just gonna put all the information out there, try to get a clean slate, and then work iteratively in the future to provide the most truthful, accurate, and timely information to people. That will be the goal of Twitter, and we won't be perfect in that regard, but I think we will be iteratively better. And if that turns out, if we're successful in doing so, then I think Twitter will compete more effectively than any other source of information, and then more and more people will use Twitter, and then that competitive pressure will force other social media companies and other media companies to also be more truthful, because otherwise they will simply lose their readership. And that, I think, is extremely powerful and good vision.
Could you say a little bit perhaps about what Twitter is expected to maintain as an API to, say, the Department of Homeland Security in general, the FBI, maybe CISA in particular? Is there an expected way in which the government can jack in to social media that's expected on behalf of each of the big media platforms? And is that sort of different? I don't know how to say this exactly, but the issue of left versus right is complicated by the fact that Trump is a non-player to the game, just the way Bernie might have been considered a non-player to the game. And so the secondary question is, how much of this isn't about left versus right, but about targeting anyone who isn't a party to all of the tacit agreements inside DC?
Can you still hear us, Elon?
Elon, you still there?
I hope so.
No, he's disconnected. It says disconnected for me at least.
Huh.
I'll invite him. I'll invite him again. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, he's back. He's back.
Hey,
Hold on. Elon,
Mario,
are you back?
such a pity that he couldn't hear you, man. That is just crazy.
No, it's fine, man. It's fine. Like, you know me. I'm happy
happens.
listening. I'm happy listening. Can you guys hear me at least?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes,
I can hear you.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Dara, thanks for asking the question. I was really curious about it. But it says for me he's still a speaker. Can anyone see him as a speaker?
I can see him as a speaker, but he's not speaking.
Last time he was here, Kim, you were there as well. I think Kim, you commented and he joined. When we co-hosted him, remember Kim? We co-hosted him and it froze. So I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't have co-hosted him.
I think he's dropped off now.
Yeah, I'll send him an invite. A few people got kicked off stage. Not even by you, Kim, just by themselves. But just guys, give you a heads up. Yeah. Twitter's glitching like crazy. What's your take? While waiting for Elon, guys, what's your take so far on what Elon has said? Because there's a few pretty big things he mentioned, such as the fear, the worry that he has.
Just to summarize what he said, right? I mean, his main goal clearly is that the truth is out there, that it has value again, and that Twitter needs to make a stand for free speech, which he is doing now. And he is aware of the risk to him personally and his businesses. So it's a very courageous thing for him to do. And I think, anyone who had any doubt about what his intentions are when he bought Twitter, I think it's pretty clear that what he's doing is in the interest of the people and not necessarily in his own best interest. So I find that amazing, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah, and while waiting for Elon to join again, I've DM'd him another invite. What do you guys think of his? I'm not sure if he's saying it as a joke, but his security fear on his security and
I don't think he has anything really to worry about. I mean, I don't think anyone's really going to come at him right now because it'd be too obvious why they'll be going after him. So I think he's quite safe, and he does have security. So personally, I'm not concerned. Although at the same time, he does have security for a reason, right? He is the world's richest man. So there's that. But I don't think it's going to be different than any other day. There's nothing that he's revealing now that is, that damaging to, any specific person, right? It's like he's more or less just giving people the platform for free speech. And the people who are most affected by this are journalists who, what do they have to lose? Well, their reputations for one, but they've already thrown it away. So I don't think I don't think he really has to worry about his personal safety. I don't think it's going to be that dire.
Elon, just to let you know, Elon is listening now. I've sent you through an invite. You should see it via DM. So I sent you through the invite to come back on stage. So hopefully it works. It might take a bit of time because space is glitching like crazy.
It is.
For everyone else, yeah, go ahead.
Mario, there's some backfeed coming from you. I'm not sure if you have your audio playing in the background, but I can hear you twice. I don't know if anyone else is having that issue.
Oh, I can hear him twice.
Okay, I'll try to fix it. By the way, everyone, I'm just going to tweet the next space link now to set your reminders for the next space. I'll fix my audio. Kim, the mic is yours.
Yeah, let's hope that Elon comes back if he has a chance. I mean, first of all, how amazing is that he joins us from his private chat, to be part of this of this space. That's just typical Elon. It's so cool.
I mean, it's a historical moment, right? I mean, he's a part of it. I mean, he's the part of it. So, I mean, thank you.
He's back, guys. Just FYI, he's back. Elon, let me see if he can hear me this time. Elon, can you hear me or still no?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm glad you can hear me. I'm glad you can hear me again. I think Kim, you were asking a question.
No, I was just saying how cool it is that you talk to us from your private chat. We really appreciate it. It's like a typical Elon moment, and we're just all in awe about you. Taking these risks to your business and to yourself to fight for free speech. So I said to everyone who had doubts about your intentions when you bought Twitter, you are making your intentions very clear, and I think it's very courageous of you, and I want to thank you for that.
No, you're most welcome. I mean, like I said, the proof will be in the pudding over time. There will be many mistakes made, but iteratively, I think that the net vector should be towards truth. If sort of new Twitter is successful in that, then the results will be that people will turn to Twitter to understand what is true, what is real, what narratives matter. Twitter will gain a lot of readership and attention, and will put a lot of competitive pressure on mainstream media and on other social media companies to also be more truthful, because otherwise they will simply keep losing people to Twitter, and that's where the competition can be a very, very good thing. But it's not going to be perfect, and there's going to be decisions that people disagree with. But if on balance, the overall decisions are ones that people do agree with, then they will gravitate towards Twitter, and Twitter will be successful and will gain share from other sources of media, and it will cause those other sources of media to then stop towing the line and to sort of be more truthful.
What's your just a quick question, Elon? What's the biggest risk in your opinion from the steps you've taken in terms of releasing the files? Do you see any risks for Twitter?
I mean, I guess there'll probably be some. I wouldn't be surprised if some lawsuits or something. I would expect there to be some legal risk. What's important? That's less of a concern than clearing the air and making sure that people of Earth know what really happened. And
the metrics, the Twitter metrics show that it seems like it's the right decision by far, not only ethically but from a business perspective as well. That you keep hitting new records.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, it's the point of as it becomes clear and that Twitter is the place to actually figure out what's going on and get the unfiltered narrative, the unfiltered truth. Also, for the people of Twitter to be able to suggest narratives and steer them, and emphasize narratives themselves, and have things not be controlled like it is with the so-called mainstream media, where the narrative is controlled by a handful of editors-in-chief. If basically the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Washington Post, and if maybe a few others decide what the narrative is, and so even if what they say is completely truthful, the people don't really get a choice in what topics are covered, whereas on Twitter they do, and like there could be something really important going on the world, and then the big news organizations aren't covering it, but on Twitter the people can decide what narratives are important and what should be emphasized and what should So that's
on that note. Like,
can I mention something really quick? I can hear you.
Okay,
is that you?
I'm just going to ask a quick question. I want to know what Twitter is doing, or what you are doing, what you're planning to allow people to have more ability to publish their own stories on Twitter. Because right now we just have tweets, right?
Yeah.
But what are your plans for, say, video publication or article publication? Things to incentivize, creators and journalists, independent journalists, to be able to have their voices heard for more than just tweets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are all like very obvious moves. One needs to be able to obviously post long-form written content on Twitter. One needs to be able to post long videos and long audio on Twitter natively, and there obviously needs to be a means of monetizing that so that creators can make a living. Those are I feel like I'm saying that the sky is blue and the grass is green. That's pretty obvious stuff. And but in order to implement those things, Twitter needs to have a strong software engineering organization that is focused on shipping great code. Was quite a mess before, but it will have a strong engineering team and be able to implement those basic features. That even if there are lots of limitations, for example, well then they can post it on Twitter, and then Twitter can be an effective competitor to YouTube. And then, like I said, what happens when there is competition for the truth, and everyone and one company steps out of line, and actually really does allow the truth to flourish. It's going to put a lot of competitive pressure on other organizations to do the same thing.
Can you talk about whether or not the effort to supposedly pre-bunk malinformation, which is to take real information and then, if it's damaging to a narrative, to put fear, uncertainty, and doubt around it, is there an attempt through the Department of Homeland Security or the FBI or CISA or any of these groups to tell Twitter that it has to maintain a port so that information can come from the government to say, we need this information pre-bunked?
Well, I mean, if there is any sort of request from the U.S. government that is not in accordance with the law or can be legally fought, Twitter will refuse it's legal, and it's legally, and if something cannot be will Congress such that it can be. But we cannot gag the voice of the people. This is not good. And like I said earlier, it's like you look at. I read a lot of history. I love history, and I love history podcasts and stuff.
Hardcore history is the best one.
Hardcore history. Dan Collin is so awesome.
It's fantastic. Start with the Mongols.
Yeah, but it's like you look through history, man, and it's like we have this pressure. We're in this precious situation where, like, it's rare, unusual situation where there's actually, I mean, within boundaries, there is actually freedom of speech, but it's rare in history. And usually it's like been some king or whatever they were just by default, and now we have this like rare moment in history where the voice of the people is mostly not suppressed, but now there are people trying to suppress it, and we just fight really hard for freedom of speech. This is very, I think, essential to the future of civilization.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, this is why you're fighting, right? This is why, you're fighting for free speech so that we can have it in the future. Because if we don't have control of the present, we do not have control of the future. It will be in the control of somebody else, someone that we absolutely do not want to be in control of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to chime in there, there are a lot of people in the last decade that have lost hope because what's happening in politics, what's happening in the media, there's so much frustration. And I think the most important thing that you've done here, Elon, with your steps that you are taking is to give people hope again.
Well, great. I'm really glad to hear that. And like I said, I'll do my best here. I'm definitely going to make some mistakes along the way, and it won't be perfect, but I'll also then do my best to correct those mistakes and to be, the least dumb possible. As I say, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, man. It's like, yeah, I mean...
It's a very white-pilling moment to have you fight this fight. A lot of us have been fighting this culture war for free speech, basically, and, I think a lot of people have lost hope because they didn't see anyone caring about it, right? It's like the majority of people obviously do care, but they just don't know what to do. And yeah, it's true what Kim said, just to echo what he said. Thank you for fighting this fight. I mean, this is very, very important. It's not just you, it's not just me, it's all of us.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm kind of like sort of, worried about the future of civilization. Are we headed in a good direction? Like, if you study history, you sort of see like the arc of civilizations, the rise and fall. There's the ancient Sumerians, the ancient Egyptians, in India and China, there've been many sort of rises and falls of civilizations within India and China, and it's just like people sometimes take for granted that because they've been in an upcycle, things just get better in the future, and they don't just automatically get better. They actually, civilizations tend to have an arc. We want to make sure that we do not find ourselves on the downslope of that arc.
Good times make weak men, right? And we are in the good times right now, and we're seeing a lot of weak men, right? Like, that's where we are in this arc, and it sucks. So let's try not to repeat the same cycle. We need to fight the cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's like not to sort of get like too philosophical about things here, but there is like sort of a I've had these discussions with like a lot of people, and feel like wondering like, what's the meaning of life? Like, what should we do? Like, why do anything? For some people that answer is religious. But then if you're not sort of very religious, then what is the answer? Actually, my theory on that is that I sort of believe in Douglas Adams' philosophy. The universe is the answer, and we should strive through greater understanding to expand the scope and scale of consciousness to better understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe. It's basically a religion of curiosity. Let's grow into the future, expand in the future, expand consciousness, expand our understanding, and figure out what the heck's going on.
And it's the number 42, right? The number 42 as well. And also, don't panic and make sure you grab a towel.
Elon, thanks for
without giving away too much. Really quick, Elon, is there any way to get a sneak peek of what we can expect with the next Twitter files drop?
Well, I'm somewhat leaving this up to Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss, but I think the natural thing would be to say, like, okay, what happened after the election, the Hunter Biden laptop stuff. And by the way, I actually don't, this may sound bizarre, but like, Hunter Biden seems kind of fun, to be honest.
I know, right? Yeah. He's an artist. Do you know that?
He seems like he knows how to have a good time.
I mean,
so
he has a sense of humor about himself.
Up Hunter Biden here, but but just beyond the what happened after the election? How much government influence was there? There's this whole sort of move to create a disinformation ministry, which was insane. And like George Orwell is turning in his grave to hear such things. But like what happened with that? I think there was a public outcry about a disinformation.
Yeah, Jack Posobiec started that one. He basically stopped it in its tracks because before that, nobody knew that this was even a thing, right? And he exposed it, and suddenly everybody was talking about it, and they had to shut it down because it was very Orwellian. It was like they used 1984 as an instruction manual.
Exactly, totally. Exactly. 1984 is George Orwell's 1984 is supposed to be a warning, not an instruction manual.
Yep.
Guys, come on.
And that's what they seem to be doing. They take every single, dystopian fiction, whether it's Deus Ex, I love that game, and they're like, yeah, this world looks awesome. Let's oppress the hell out of people. It's like, no, let's not do that.
Exactly. Totally.
Hey, Elon, speaking of progress, you've accomplished so much. You started the first successful American car company in 100 years. You brought payments to the internet. There's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners that look at what you do and sort of try to, follow that example and see how can they create some of that progress too. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the layoffs because it appeared to me with the $4 million loss per day and just doing the math on the $1 billion of interest expense, that $3 million of that may have been interest expense added. And I myself, running a small business, have been in a situation where, the business was going to go under in a number of months if expenses weren't cut, and what we found is communicating to employees, giving them time to process, getting their feedback, and then, creating a shared vision to evolve the product, to evolve the company to a greater future was really successful. And it appears here that the typical leverage buyout KKR approach was basically applied from a financial standpoint. For a small business owner, is that approach wrong? Did you think about taking that approach? Was that ever under consideration?
And I apologize. The audio is not perfect, so I'm not fully hearing the questions. But with respect to Twitter, the company basically tripled headcount in about 2 years, a little over 2 years. But revenue is flat to declining. So that there's just no way that is going to be a healthy situation. So the first order of business with Twitter was okay, we got to make sure Twitter doesn't die, that doesn't go bankrupt. There is quite a lot of debt on this deal, $12.5 billion of debt, and Fed is being extremely unwise in its very giant rate increases. I think these will go down as some of the most foolish Fed decisions ever. But anyway, so the debt's got to be serviced, and
KKR's been loading up businesses like that for years. How's this different? Sorry. KKR and other private equity companies that do anything from a hostile takeover, or any sort of takeover where they bid over the current price using leverage, using debt. I've been following that for years, and it always results in massive layoffs. And so, as somebody who's
by the way, I don't think anybody cares about that. I don't think that matters right now.
That's what I was gonna say. And I was gonna say, as long as they keep moving the bar and changing the definition of a recession, we are where we are, right?
Let's get back on topic here. We have Elon. We don't need to talk about his investments and things like that. Elon, we should send a shout out to the Twitter Spaces team because you're about to break the all-time record with this space. We're almost at 100,000 listeners right now.
Yes, we are, and it's holding.
Talking about spaces, what's the strategy moving forward?
Is awesome. I have to tell you that there are really some amazing people at Twitter. And there's actually some amazing people who actually left Twitter in recent years, and I hope they come back because I think there's a potential to just build some amazing things here. So I want to be exactly complimentary of some of the great work that is being done at Twitter. So it's sort of, it's sort of like, I mean, there's a lot to criticize about Twitter and say like, okay, Twitter is wasting money in a lot of really some next level ways, but also very talented people who really care about the truth of Twitter. And I'm doing my best to elevate their capabilities and give them all the resources they need. I'm very excited about Community Notes. This feature, Keith Coleman's running it, and there's like some really first-rate engineers that are writing the code on that product. That is, I think, going to be very powerful for actually fighting disinformation, not.
Can we actually see that if we're not enrolled in Community Notes, right? Like right now, the rest of the world isn't, right? It's just the United States and I think Canada, to my knowledge. But can you at least make it visible to other people? So even if we're not able to contribute, we can at least view it, because I feel kind of left out. I'm in Malaysia, so it's kind of hard to see it.
Yeah, actually, I asked that. I sent a note to Keith Coleman saying like, "Hey, shouldn't we just at least make this visible everywhere?" And then he said we needed to talk in person about that, but I'm not sure what.
Hey Elon, we did want to say on the Twitter Spaces during the blowout of SBF and FTX, all the other companies in crypto, there's been massive financial losses for many people, obviously. But Twitter Spaces actually became the place that drove the community together, and we've been sharing lots of stories. There were people that were suicidal because of the financial loss, and because of the community in Twitter Spaces, it prevented them taking their life. There's lots of stories.
And to add to it as well, Elon, last time, if you remember when you joined the space about Sam, that space ended up going for 16 hours, and for 3-4 days, the media was in our space, getting the news from the space for 4 days, 5 days straight, and then writing stories on it day after day. And I think Simon was there, Kim was there. So it was I think it's the first time it happens to that extent on Twitter Spaces, and we're probably doing it again today.
Yeah, and this type of citizen journalism that you are enabling is so powerful, because we are the news now. If people want to learn the truth, they go to Twitter and join these spaces. It's like real time with experts. It's fantastic. And then we have people like you joining in and sharing their opinions and their thoughts. What is more powerful than that? The traditional media can pack and it's game over for them.
Elon, would you ever consider holding a space for earnings for Tesla right here live on Twitter?
Oh man, I have to say, Tesla being a public company, it just creates such a gigantic attack surface for legal firms in the U.S., especially these class action firms. That
seems like a bad idea.
I've been to spaces that other CEOs held, and they did their earnings live right on Twitter, and I thought it was quite amazing.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
You've made Elon. You've just made two promises. You've made two promises, man. Now you've made this one, and you've made one to Kim about the. You made a promise to Kim about the poll, and now you made a promise to hold the Tesla meeting here on Spaces. So just I'll remind you afterwards about it as well.
I will.
Elon, I've been getting a lot of questions.
I will do those things.
Yeah. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people who are just bombarding me just to ask you, right? Because we're in the space. They're asking, what are you going to do about the shadow banning situation? Because I'm personally search banned. I'm not shadow banned, but I am search banned, and I'm not sure what's even up with that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've only been on the job like a month, guys. So there's definitely, I've got a long list of things to do. We need to say, like, your account should actually just tell you are search banned or you are deboosted or whatever it is, and why, and what the process is for fixing that. Now, this week I should tell you that we were probably a little overzealous, and that's, if anything, that's my fault, because I'm just trying to get rid of the damn scams and spam and bots and stuff. And so in trying to stamp out or reduce the bot spam scam stuff, there will be some false positives. So that's just this week, but. Be taking, it's going to be an iterative journey towards truth and towards a healthier system.
You just have to be patient,
at any given point, it will be broken, but it will be moving as quickly as possible towards a good place. And I encourage people to, complain about it and whatnot. But it will move iteratively towards a good place. That's the goal. And I generally move pretty fast, so on the net, the vector sum of those is over time.
I'm losing him.
Yeah. By the way, Kim, check my DMs. Kim, check my DMs. Kim, check my DMs because I'm having glitches, so I might need your help with a few things. Elon, you're back. Elon.
Yep.
You're back. Another question. I think you've made a reference once to WeChat. I think that was a while ago, and I don't recall it correctly. Does that reference still stand today? Is that a potential vision for Twitter?
Yeah, I was just using WeChat as an example. It's not like we would copy WeChat exactly, but it's just WeChat has a lot of functionality that Twitter should have. Like it's kind of a no-brainer for Twitter to have payments, both fiat currency and crypto, and to make that and simple for people to use. As talked about earlier, adding the ability to post long-form written content and video content, and to be able to monetize that easily. And
nice to have a playlist, like YouTube does.
Yeah. My focus in the first month, and also will be the case in December, is just making sure that Twitter is operating efficiently as a company, that it is not wasting money, because it faces challenges on the revenue front from with an overdependence on advertising that is not targeted, like brand advertising, and in a market where advertising revenue in general is dropping, and then also when you start questioning the status quo, then various pressure groups start pressuring advertisers to not advertise with you. So that's another challenge on the revenue front. And then you got the debt, and the debt has a very high interest rate. So it's like these are a lot of challenges simultaneously to that. I think we'll solve these challenges, but these are a lot of things to solve. So the first order of business is just get Twitter healthy. Make sure its expenditures are reasonable. Twitter's like primarily a software company. There are obviously design elements, but it's primarily software and servers. And so, is the software team organized well? Those that are committing good code. And just making the engine of engineering work at Twitter. Because if you look at, say, what is Twitter's technology evolution over time, excluding acquisitions, it's been very low. The technology of Twitter has been very slow. And
10 years for an edit button.
Yeah, exactly. The edit button, look, I mean, if it takes a year to do an edit button and the edit button still doesn't work properly, then you can have a million good ideas, but they're irrelevant because you can't implement.
So Elon, I've got a quick question for you, my friend. I was removed from the space.
Hey, I want to test my mic. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Maybe you can't. Can you hear me?
Alex, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Let Alex ask the first question.
Okay. Does Alex want to go, and then I can go?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So my question was, if the Twitter files, are those also going to include other content other than the provided content? So basically all pages?
Yeah.
Alex, Mario, we can't hear you.
This is a bit of an audio shit show. Let's try and get this back on the road. I unmuted everyone. I muted everyone. I'm going to unmute those who are not talking. Just mute yourself, please.
I would like to ask Elon a quick question.
Okay, trying this again.
I think Alex just did, and he was ready to respond. He just now would have to unmute himself to respond to Alex.
Yeah, I was just wondering if all accounts that were requested to have things taken down by the DNC and by the Biden campaign, even ones that have nothing to do with the Hunter Biden laptop, if they will also be released.
Elon, you're muted.
You got to unmute. Yeah, you got to unmute.
Yep, he's got to unmute.
Sorry. Okay. Yes. The intent is to release all the files. So there's not anything that's hidden or anything.
I can't hear anybody.
He dropped out. Is my mic good, Kim, by the way? Is it my mic okay?
We can hear you.
You just sound like you are in...
Oh, he's back.
Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, you cut out. Yeah, you cut out for a second while you were answering Alex.
I mean, I think this is like whatever Stasi files or truth and reconciliation, like Nelson Mandela would say, it's if you want reconciliation, there must be truth. That's the intent here. Intent here is to just make it clear what was happening and provide transparency about the past, and in doing so, to build trust about the future.
Awesome. So, do you think that Twitter could also have an automatic notification if anyone was, say, if their account was requested content taken down? Do you think there could be something like that implemented?
Yeah, like the VPN sites actually offer that.
Yeah, I mean, you mean if if a government has a takedown request or something like that?
Yeah. Like the government says, "Hey, we want you censored." I mean, I think for example, even Germany would let you know, right? So why doesn't America? Yeah.
Or with James Woods, for example, how his content was, they requested his content be removed. Say if that happened from the Biden campaign.
Past and future requests should be, and sunshine is a great disinfectant. If they request content takedowns that are embarrassing, then they'll be less likely to request those content takedowns. At the end of the day, Twitter doesn't have a choice but to abide by the laws of the U.S. and whatever countries it's operating. Otherwise, you get arrested. We shouldn't do more than that. To be abide by the laws because you have to. If there may be some potential to say if we disagree with the law, maybe we can lobby to have a law changed or something like that. But
so Elon, I want to ask you on this point. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm saying the overarching goal here is that on balance that Twitter be a force for good for the future of civilization. And for the expansion of consciousness.
So to that point, I want to ask you then, because I'm speaking from the European lens, what do you think about the EU's proposals over potential restrictions to the use of Twitter?
We're losing you a little bit.
Or equally, I know you had a little bit of a, shall we say, fanfare with Alex Vindman earlier this week. I was wondering if you would be interested in a space with you and him, since I know him from the week ago. We had a chat. I invite you to, to a debate. If you'd be interested.
Don't waste your time with the intelligence community, man.
Seriously,
I'm teasing. But I am curious about your thoughts on the European Union perspective.
Actually, there's a lot of the EU rules call for things that I agree with, which is transparency and an ability for users to appeal and have a clear process. So I think in terms of the Digital Services Act, I think it's mostly good. I think we have to watch the implementation of it and make sure the implementation is not bad for the people of Europe, but the actual, I think most of what is in there, I agree with, because it's transparency and accountability. It seems quite sensible. We just need to make sure that it's not warped in a bad direction. But generally, I agree with it. Or at least what I know of it today.
But I have a personal question for you, Elon.
That we don't allow governments to define what misinformation or disinformation is, right? I mean, that is probably the most dangerous development, to give governments that kind of power that they become the deciders of what's truth and what is not.
Yeah, no, that is a big deal. I agree. That goes to the heart of the situation. You don't want to have governments, and especially it may not even be it may not be an elected official. May be someone who's potentially a mid-level executive in a ministry who people don't even know exists and was never elected, despite being in a democratic country.
What about the China protests? What role do you think that Twitter can have in helping to support Iran, Ukraine, China, and other countries that are facing, technological oppression and limitation in their access to freedom of speech?
Well, like I said, we'll do whatever is possible within the bounds of the law.
I have a kind of a personal question, and I've been curious. Was there a breaking point that made you decide to want to buy Twitter?
That's a good question.
I was hoping you would say the child exploitation that you've done more to get rid of in the past month than they did in the past 10 years on Twitter. And I wanted to thank you for that. And I'm sorry that the media has completely snubbed you on mentioning the fact that you guys have gone above and beyond to make that happen. And Eliza Blue, thank you for your work and efforts there.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank Eliza Blue. I would like to thank Andrea as well. We've actually had this is actually like a really good case of crowdsourcing of having people on Twitter actually help solve the child exploitation stuff. It is true. Yes, Twitter has done more to stop child exploitation in the last month than probably the last 10 years. That's insane. It kind of blows my mind, frankly. And we're going to keep doing it, and it's always going to be number one. I mean, it's like kids can't defend themselves, so we must.
Mario, we can't hear you.
Mario, you sound like a mosquito now.
Sounds like he's in the toilet, to be honest.
Elon, do you still have plans to drop the W? Everyone is asking.
I mean, technically the poll did come out positive on that. So
the people have spoken.
No, the people have not spoken. But more to my question, like, I don't think you answered that. Like, I want to know, like, what was the breaking point? I think a lot of people want to know this one. Like, what was the breaking point that made you want to buy Twitter?
First of all, I suppose if Twitter had been, if I'd been able to buy Twitter sooner, then I might have actually done that. You know, there had to were a situation where my liquidity was enough and Twitter's value was, you know, whether you know, there was essentially a closing price. Like, would I actually have that? That wasn't the case until recently. But I guess it just felt like it really had been building for some time. So I wouldn't say there was like, it wasn't like a step change suddenly. This is one thing. It's not like, oh, the Babylon Bee got banned, that's why I bought Twitter. That would be crazy. It's more that there just seemed to be like this more and more groupthink amongst the media, more and more sort of towing the line amongst digital social media company. Basically, just we're traveling the path more and more of suppression of free speech. And this was just getting me concerned. It's like the trends were just very, very bad. So unless something was done to reverse this trend against free speech, then I felt, well, maybe that you know, at some point everything will just get cut off. And unless you're in agreement with whatever the groupthink is, you're just going to be ostracized or your voice will be shut off. So like I said, it wasn't any one thing. It was just like, okay. And I can't exactly say why, because it's like one of those things where it's like it's just that my biological neural net's important to buy Twitter. And you know, just like with a digital neural net, you can't really exactly explain why the neural net is able to understand or text, or just say that the collective result of the neural net says that this is an important action, or this is the right action. And my biological neural net concluded that it was important to buy Twitter, and that if Twitter was not bought and steered in a good direction, it would be a danger for the future of civilization. And so that's why I bought it.
That's brilliant.
And, Elon, you mentioned the biological neural net and the digital neural net. When is Neuralink going to be ready to copy our consciousness into a
And
computer
please, can I sign
forever?
up? Where can I sign up for it? Because I would love to have my brain augmented. You know, it's like cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going full cyberpunk at this point. Deus Ex.
Elon, I want to pose the other side to that. I'm sure you're familiar with Doctor Who, right? And the Cybermen, and this idea of a centralized system by which you can influence people's thoughts. Is that not a consideration that you have on your radar, if you get what I'm coming from?
Well, I mean, frankly, on the Neuralink front, if I look at the pace at which artificial intelligence is improving versus the pace at which Neuralink is progressing, artificial intelligence is moving much faster than Neuralink is moving, because as soon as anything gets done with humans, it gets very slow because of the danger to humans. I mean, for the next few years, Neuralink is really just focused on restoring movement to people that have a broken neck or spine and restoring vision. So it's restoring movement and vision. It's not uploading memories or controlling thoughts or anything like that. It's pretty basic stuff. It's like the early days of computers, you know?
It's basic, but it's life-changing though, right? I mean, being able to see if you're born blind, that is a gift that I don't think, you know, anyone would pass up. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and that's very doable. You know, so what I'm saying about Neuralink is that you'll be able to see anything that Neuralink's doing, you'll be able to see coming from very far off. Because you've got to go through the whole FDA device approval process. That takes ages. You've got to evaluate the safety in humans. That takes a long time. So it basically is very slow compared to the development of digital superintelligence, very fast. Now, I do think at this for a long time that we ought to be more cautious in the development of digital superintelligence. This represents a danger to the public, and just as we have other regulatory agents oversee dangers to the public, like the FDA or the FAA, or any one of a number of FCC, you can't just have companies just going hog wild developing digital superintelligence with no oversight.
Do you potentially see this happening in a country where there are no oversights, where the governments allow the scientists to go hog wild, as you said?
Well, look, there's the things we can control and the things we can't control. And I think there should be some kind of oversight, North America and Europe, which is where a lot of the AI innovation is happening. There should be some kind of oversight beyond nothing, which is currently the case.
How far do you think we are from general artificial intelligence? Like, what is your time frame, you think, until we have the big deal?
I mean, I think it's happening very fast. You have to say, like, AGI is defined by where digital superintelligence is smarter than the smartest human. What is your definition of AGI?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once AI is able to basically program itself and understands how to advance itself, that would be the level where we need to start to worry, right?
Yeah.
Well, to add to that, Elon, I mean, what about this? Last year after the pandemic, we had the Great Resignation, and now there's the concern about the replacement of traditional labor jobs with AI and machine technology. I think it was you. I saw the video and the capacity for it to control things with its mind. Is there not a concern about the potential impact it has on very menial jobs and the those people who don't have necessarily the skills or ability to retrain that quickly? Just how can we plan in advance to minimize the consequences?
Sorry, the audio is like not good right now. So
no worries.
Hey,
yeah, we can't hear you, Mario.
Maybe we can have another space sometime in the future to talk about AI, because I think that is one of the big topics. Where a lot of people don't really realize how big the risk of AI is, and what you are always asking for is more regulation, better rules in order to prevent the worst case scenario of an AGI taking over and basically wiping out
look at artists and their jobs. I mean, Midjourney has basically replaced graphic artists for book covers. You don't need a book artist anymore. You can just do it with AI.
Not to change the subject back to the Twitter files, but Kim, I just want to ask Elon a quick question about Section 230. Are you concerned about that now, and what the government could potentially do to Section 230 as a result of the flattening that you're creating at Twitter and all the truth that you're pushing out and the objectivity?
Well, I think it is, and I did say this on Twitter publicly. It is good that we actually that the House will be Republican. It's generally not a good idea if the U.S. if the House, Senate, and executive branch are all of one party. Then you have sort of a situation. So it's good to have at least one of those branches, the other party, because then they will check the worst excesses of both parties. So I think I think it's good that the House will be Republican, and at least and people interpreted that as like, oh, I must be some huge Republican or something. It's like, no, I'm a huge moderate. Actually, is what I am. It's just like I wish people were rigorously moderate, but like by its nature, being moderate does not lend itself. You cannot be. It's like be fanatically moderate, but fanaticism. And
be a radical centrist. I think some YouTubers like to say, right? Be a radical centrist.
Yeah, exactly. Radical centrist. So it's just like you want to have the government pass laws that are in the best of people, not that are in the interest of a small segment of the people. And so that's why I think if like a mixture of parties in control, then they will pass only things that sort of are the intersection of sets of what both parties agree on, which is more likely to be in the interest of the people. So I think I guess I feel pretty okay about that Section 230 stuff. Yeah.
Elon,
can you just quickly, guys? Can you hear me now or no?
Yeah,
I've got great speakers that just came up because now it's not glitching for me anymore. So I've just welcomed Clayton, Patrick, Bet David is on stage as well, and there's more speakers about to come up that all of you would know. Now my space is working. So guys, feel free to jump in and ask Elon any questions.
Hey, thank you so much.
If you want to retry the co-host thing too, Mario. Sorry about that, Clay.
I will now. Go ahead, Clay, and then Patrick. Go ahead, Clay.
Hey, thanks, Elon. This is Clayton from Redacted. One of the stories we've been covering on our show over the past couple of months is Dr. Shiva's lawsuit. He was banned from Twitter running for the Senate from Massachusetts. And one of the things in his lawsuit that was uncovered was the back-end government portal to both Facebook and Twitter, the Trusted Twitter Partnership. And I know on Twitter's blog that Trusted Twitter Partnership between Twitter and someone with a government email address can reach out to Twitter and basically have accounts banned, taken down. Is that portal, is that Trusted Partnership still available to the government? And given what you've released in the Twitter files, does it make sense for that to still be there?
I got to dig into this trusted partnership thing. You know, obviously that has like some Big Brother vibes. Twitter will adhere to the law, but it will not do. You know, it's not going to go beyond the law. And if there are laws that don't seem to be the interest of the people, then Twitter will push to change the laws to be in the interest. But I'll dig into this trusted partnership thing, find out what's going on.
By the way, Clayton, I do watch Redacted, and I love you and your wife. You're doing an amazing job, so keep it going.
Eric, Sebastian, did you have a question?
Yes, I do, Elon. And
Go ahead, Eric.
It may be a follow-up to the prior question. Elon, in the Twitter files, the things that you found, did you find any relationship between Facebook and any other TikTok, whomever, with regards to what could be considered, the collusion with the certain political parties? Was it, in other words, was there any collusion among other social media groups with Twitter?
I've not directly seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've not seen it yet. In fact, in terms of the Twitter files, Matt TV's read way more than I have. Like, because my priority has been just getting Twitter healthy and fixing Twitter engineering so that we can actually, release features at a high rate. That's been my priority on the Twitter front. Is we've got to get Twitter to be in a financially healthy place, fix the engine of engineering, so we can add the features and capabilities that'll make it much better and improve transparency and trust and all that. So actually, most of the stuff. I've read hardly any of the Twitter files. Matt TV has, and then Barry Weiss is also getting access to it, so she'll read it too.
Have you been in contact with any of the other social platforms, Meta, Google, etc., since the release of the files? Has there been any pushback, any concerns, anything at all, or it's been pretty quiet?
They haven't reached out to me. I'm not aware of any outreach from them. So I guess, look, if it turns out there's like stuff that the public should know about, then we'll put it out there. Matt TV and Barry Weiss, hey, listen, whatever you see, if you think the public should know about it, you just post it.
With regards to the dissemination of information, so right now it's just Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss. Do you have any plans to maybe give access to more journalists, like say Ryan Saavedra of Daily Wire, Jack Posobiec? He's done lots of coverage on this stuff even previously, so I'm sure they'd love to know.
Yeah, I think maybe at some point we should just put it all out there, so I think in the beginning it's good to have some coherence and so it's not just a million stories all at once.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's a drip feed at first, and then later on it's going to be a flood, right? Because otherwise it's just too many stories, too much all at once, and then people can't really focus on anything. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, you just get drowned out in the flood of things. I think once we think the stories have the critical stories have been told, then I think probably the right move is to just provide a data dump and then go through it and see what was missed.
Are you surprised at all about the blowback against Matt Taibbi over the past 24 hours? A number of liberal news organizations, a lot of liberal news reporters came out and really slammed Matt Taibbi, which really was really shocking. What was your response to that?
Well, I think those people should be looking in the mirror and wondering why they were deceptive. Why did they deceive the American public? And instead of trying to redirect blame to Matt Taibbi, they seem to be accepting some responsibility themselves for not being truthful to the American public.
Elon, it's Mike Cohen here. Congratulations on, of course, the acquisition of Twitter. But my question to you is, how are you going to go about combating the issue of bot and bot farms who create so much misinformation and hate on your platform?
The last thing I do, I will defeat the damn bots and trolls.
Maybe they need like a mind virus that purges them, just makes them self-destruct.
Yeah, I mean, it's war, and we're going to win that war, big time.
Yeah, because
I'm confident you will.
The extent of the hatred that these bots cause is astronomical.
I agree.
And it's really terrible.
It's terrible.
But thank you for your commitment to that.
Absolutely.
Can I jump in and ask a question here, Michael?
Just real quick. I wanted to say something about the bots. There are, of course, commercial bots, right? People trying to do spam, but the more dangerous bots are those that are trying to interfere in discourse and try to manipulate the conversation. And those are primarily run by governments, right? They're run by the intelligence community in different countries. They're trying to manipulate the way people are talking, for example, about Ukraine. I think one of the more famous examples here are these so-called NAFO bots that are going out and shooting everyone down.
Real people.
Yeah, often where they're mixing it, right? So the intelligence community does it in that way. They have real people, then they have bots that are fully automated, and then they even let their intelligence community employees work with Twitter profiles to chime in as well. But all with one goal, which is to manipulate the public discourse towards their goals. And I think you experienced that yourself when you spoke out for peace in Ukraine. You were attacked by these same bots.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I've been in the job a month. I'm very good at software. I wrote software for 20 years, and I was very good back in the day at defeating the scammers. And they were just like they were just the bad actors had free reign before. They will not have that in the future. I look forward to that battle, and we will expose those who are acting to manipulate public opinion and shine a bright light on it. So,
fantastic.
Hey, Kim, if I could just ask a quick question on that same topic, because there was a point at which I was told by someone who apparently had access to this Discord server for these NATO or NAFO trolls that I was among their top targets, or even the number one target for a while. So I'm just sort of a personal curiosity. By the way, this is Michael Tracy. And so, Elon, I'm just curious if you were able to detect or gauge any inauthentic activity on Twitter specifically related to this sort of pro-Ukraine faction, or was there a particular sort of system that kind of connects those actors that you were able to discern since you've taken the helm?
Well, the tools that Twitter currently has to detect large-scale manipulation are quite strengthened. That's why, but in order for them to be strengthened, we must, like I said, build the engine of engineering to be able to sort of see what's going on in the system. I mean, over and over again, it's like Twitter doesn't know what's going on in Twitter. That's actually the issue. We need to build the tools that can analyze what's going on and see where is there evidence of large-scale manipulation in order to highlight it. And I think even if it's not shut down, if it is simply highlighted and said, wait a second, these accounts are all acting in concert, they're acting in a way that is faster than a human could possibly coordinate. This appears to be a link. 100,000 bots linked that are all acting in concert, and just say and expose them essentially. But those software tools need to be written, and they have not yet been written. But they will be.
I have written those tools, so I can give them to you.
Right, Elon, wouldn't it be easier if you were able to use some form of two-part authentication in order to ensure that the individual...
You've dropped out, Ian. You've dropped out, Michael. Oh, you're back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Elon, would it not be easier to just use some form of two-part authentication to ensure that the individual is who they say they are?
Yes. Now that the game plan with the sort of blue verified thing is that right now it is there are problems on many levels. It's too cheap to have a bot. So and even a troll like it's not just that somebody's operating a bunch of 10,000 instances of Twitter accounts in a bank of PCs. It's like you can have a warehouse with, and there are in many parts of the world, like warehouse where there's just banks of phones. So they actually are operated by people. The challenge right now, so the challenge is actually you have to make it more expensive to have bots and trolls. It can't be like
it's like a guy sitting in front of 8 phones, right? That's just how they operate.
Exactly. It's like
the farms are guys sitting in front of 8 phones.
Well, unfortunately, the disinformation budget for the CIA for these NAFO bots is over $100 million. I mean, even if you throw $8 per month per account in front of them, it's not. Is that really going to stop them?
Not the $8. If it was purely, then I think they could overcome a budget challenge. But also then having to have a huge number of phones and a huge number of credit or debit cards these all amplify the difficulty. And then having if you want to do it such that that you can't find any connection between 100,000 phones and 100,000 credit cards and 100,000 authenticated phone numbers, that's very difficult to do. Just the logistical difficulty of that is extremely high. So it's more like we need to process some amount of money through the payment system in order to piggyback off the authentication of the payment system. So $8 is kind of like a random number, obviously. But there's another thing that has to be accomplished simultaneously, which is that Twitter cannot be so heavily dependent on advertisers. So this is an attempt to kill two birds with one stone, which is build a source of revenue that is not advertiser dependent, so the advertisers do not have too much sway over what happens on Twitter, and also use the payment system as an additional means of identifying and stopping large-scale manipulation of the system.
And just to add on to that, when you have a lot of users signing up, their advertisers are going to realize that these are real people, right? They're all verified individuals. So that will make them want to advertise on the site. So it's win-win-win, right?
Yes.
Hey Kim, can I ask a quick follow-up to my question? Would you mind?
Okay, I have to just stop this for a second because everyone is talking over each other. Elon just made a really important point, which is that he has more freedom to do what is good for his users if he is less dependent on advertising. So there's a large group of people here. I think everyone who appreciates what Elon is doing for us right now in this fight for freedom of speech should support him. And the best way you can support him is to become a subscriber at Twitter. You're using this great service all the time. If you want him to have more power and more freedom to achieve these goals for us, well, make that $8 a month investment. I think it's really worth it.
The price of a lot.
Did Elon already say when he plans to reinstate the verification, the $8 verification process?
Yeah,
Elon, you're muted.
Elon, you're muted. I was going to tell you because Kim muted everyone.
Sorry, it seems to sometimes mute me, I guess. So I think we're probably about a week away. Basically this coming week we should be able to restart the verification process.
Will it be global or is it just the US still?
Actually, I'm going to discuss that with the team. So this time for verification, we're taking some additional steps where one has to be phone verified with a known good phone carrier, and we'll also will offer people the opportunity if they want to do ID verification, kind of like what Airbnb does, similar thing, and they do that all around the world. And then you'll be able to look at an account and say, this account is payment verified, it is verified, it is ID verified, optionally, and also to establish organizational affiliation. Do you actually have affiliation with this organization? And providing organizations with the ability to define to state which set of users are affiliated with that organization. So, like, are you actually a professor at Stanford, or are you actually, for example, a reporter at the New York Times or whatever, or an employee of PepsiCo or whatever it is? Just generally to have granularity and nuance to what verified means, as opposed to the sort of like grab bag of nonsense, which has been the past Blue Verified situation, where you could have been an intern at Mashable 10 years ago, and now you've got Blue Verified, and it's kind of crazy. And then they were also just being traded constantly. You could just buy a verified badge, so you can't actually tell if something is Blue Verified. For Legacy Blue, you can't tell if that is a legitimate situation, a crypto scam, whether they're actually you don't know, because there's no granularity to it. And there's
a way to buy them off of Google right now. Like, you can literally Google verified accounts, and they sell them for like $200, $500 or something, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's not like Blue Verified. It's not like you have to go to the, in quotes, dark web to buy Blue Verified. You can literally Google search it and it's on page 1 of the Google search results. Legacy Blue Verified. So it's just basically the Legacy Blue Verified is a corrupt garbage file. And so we need to move forward with something that gives granularity and detail and nuance about the nature of the verification, and so that you can actually trust what you see.
Elon, you said some really admirable things about freedom of speech and your commitment to it and its role in the future of humanity. You didn't answer the question about supporting protesters in China and Iran. Is there freedom of speech for Chinese people important?
It's already banned in China. Just so you know, like, Twitter is inaccessible in China. You need a VPN, so it's kind of a pointless question.
So you don't think making it accessible for Chinese or Iranian?
It doesn't matter.
It's not Elon. It's not Elon blocking it. Tommy, you had a question, Tommy?
That was Tommy.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Tommy.
He was wrong.
Can you address the question of the freedom of speech at Sebastian Gorka here? Because a lot of people are confused that it's a First Amendment issue, what was dumped by Matt Taibbi. The First Amendment concerns government suppression. So anything that happened before January the 20th isn't First Amendment unless it was the Biden administration afterwards. So for those who think that, we've got the smoking gun and they don't need to wait for anything else, could you address that issue, Mr. Musk?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, actually, there are issues if there's election interference before the government, because that is, I think, an issue. It certainly would appear that Twitter falsely claimed that there was not election interference, but
that has to do with in-kind contributions. That's a very different kind of thing, and it is criminal. But can you tell us if there will be more smoking guns coming?
Yeah, I think there will be more smoking guns, because the obvious next question is, well, what happened after the election?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the right thing for episode 2, is what happened after the election.
And how long do we have to wait for episode 2?
I don't know. I'll check with Matt.
Will, just quickly. Will, go ahead, Will.
No, thank you. Elon, apologies if you addressed this earlier. Appreciate how long you've been on this call. What subjects outside of Hunter Biden, by the way, this is Will Kane from Fox News, what subjects outside of Hunter Biden were subject to the most government-induced censorship?
As I said, you may not have heard my earlier comment, but I don't actually, like I said, I've been working on getting Twitter to be healthy and fixing the engine of engineering. I've not been sort of poring over the Twitter files personally. That's sort of been, Matt Taibbi is doing that, and Barry Weiss is going to do it now as well. So anything I say would be somewhat of a, guesswork, really. So I don't know. There's obviously a lot of questions around Jan 6. There's questions around, COVID. There's a lot of questions. But I think the important thing is that we just get, bring daylight to all of these things. And so anything that Twitter has done, and sometimes things, a lot of times Twitter's done things that it wasn't malicious, it was just foolish. So the things that are
like the nuking people for NPCs, right? For posting NPC memes, thousands of people were banned.
Yeah, exactly.
From just a quick question, with the companies that stopped advertising on Twitter, which I think most of us agree is just not right, has there been any progress since? Have you been in discussions with them? And what are some some other strategies to bring in revenue so we depend less on advertisers?
You can hear this. This is Eric Bowling again. I was wondering if you have any knowledge or you can have any proof that there's some indication that a lot of people on the right side of the political aisle lost a ton of followers. I would say from 2015, 2016, all the way through towards the end of 2021. I'll give you anecdotally myself. I lost 80,000 or so, and not until this is literal. Not until you purchased Twitter did I start gaining followers again in a fairly robust manner. Is there any proof of that? Do you have any evidence of that being sort of a plan or a strategy on Twitter's part?
Again, like I said, I have not read the Twitter file, so it's difficult for me to say that. Except, so my understanding is limited, and that's why I would leave it to Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss and ultimately others. But if I say what is my best guess is that there was a very different standard applied to Republican candidates in the U.S. versus a Democrat candidate. There appears, and I emphasize appears, I'm not saying this is definitely the case, there appears to have been a double standard where Democrats were not censored and left causes were not censored, but right causes and Republicans were. And I think this is frankly obvious to anyone who uses Twitter without any expose of Twitter files. It's not even-handed, and it's frankly the behavior that is to be expected from an organization that is based in San Francisco, which is far left. So from their standpoint, it wouldn't seem like that they're being unfair. From their standpoint, it's simply how they see the world. I think Matt posted like political contributions of Twitter being over 99% Democrat. So, well, what kind of viewpoint would you expect people to have then? It's the behavior you'd expect from a company that is essentially a distillation of San Francisco politics.
And I hope that
by the way, just really quick. By the way, I want to make a suggestion. I want to make a suggestion real quick. Elon, when you are speaking, we can hear you really well. When you are listening, the background noise from your jet is interfering a little.
Okay, sure.
Can you just mute yourself when you are not speaking?
Yeah. So anyway, I have a question. So when you're making the files available to everybody, or rather more people, I would just like to request that I don't know, give it to me because I work for Rebel News, and I think we could do a tremendous job covering this as much as anybody else, really. Yeah.
So Tim Cass is trying to come up, by the way, Elon, just to ask you a question. But in the meantime, I just want to go back, and I know that Persistence has a question as well. I'll give you the mic right after Persistence. But one question again, back to the advertisers, Elon. Not sure if you heard it before. Any progress there with the advertisers that stopped advertising on Twitter, which we all agree is just not right, and any other strategies to bring revenue outside of advertising? You're muted, Elon.
So Apple has fully resumed advertising, which is appreciated. Apple is the single biggest advertiser on Twitter, and historically and presently. So thanks, Apple, for fully resuming advertising. I think we're seeing. We are starting to see a lot of other advertisers also resume their spending. I think the problem is that they would read all these stories in the media and then think that they were true, and they're not true. And then as it's becoming clear that the media stories about Twitter being some sort of like right-wing hellscape, which it absolutely isn't. And in fact, it is. There are far fewer bots, far fewer trolls. And it's actually, I think, way more fun and interesting, and we're seeing that in the user minutes and in the daily average users. Then advertisers are like, oh, okay, I guess maybe it is safe to get back in the water, and so we are seeing advertisers resume advertising on Twitter. So that's a good sign. I wish it would be faster, but we are seeing them resume. The more concerning factor on the advertising front is just the entire industry-wide drop in advertising, which Twitter is not immune from. So even though advertisers do get back on, the advertising expenditures in general are dropping for all companies. And so it is imperative that Twitter have an alternate revenue source, hence the subscriber revenue, which is just very important for both of the survival and of Twitter, and to reduce its dependence on advertisers. Yeah, overall, I think I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. Yeah, so
I'll add one point of credit. Like I have no stance. I have nothing against the old executives at Twitter, etc. But very objectively speaking, what you've done in a month, and again, that's purely being objective, what you've done in a month is fucking insane. The amount of progress that you've had and where Twitter is at now in such a short period of time. So not that you need more credit, because you're getting a lot here, but I just want to add to it as well. I'll give the mic to the Persistence, who's been waiting for a while, and then Spike. Go ahead, Persistence.
Well, thank you for making this a popular social media. My question is, do we have any information on advertisers threatening to pull money from Twitter if Twitter did not adhere to a policy? And additionally, do we have any information on congressmen or women who have threatened legislation should Twitter not adhere to a certain policy? And last, I was really intrigued by your comment on positivity and negativity in tweets, you saying that positive tweets would go further. And I just wanted to see what would constitute the measurement from Twitter that would make something positive or negative. Thank you.
You're muted, Elon. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sure. The advertisers, for the most part, the advertisers are quite rational in that, especially if you're advertising a family-friendly product, that you don't want to be sort of like, let's say you're advertising a Disney movie, you don't want to have like some super negative sort of hate speech, or to the and also a movie or whatever, and you also they don't want to have not safe for work content right next to ads for children toys and stuff like that. So that stuff is quite reasonable, and I agree with. Advertisers have a right to have their advertising be next to non-advertising content that is consistent with their brand. So that really just means like what is not attempting to monetize with advertising content that advertisers are uncomfortable with. So I think in general it's been okay. I think there has been some overzealous action by activist groups that pressure the advertisers, that then in turn pressure Twitter, and we're trying to sort of that I thought was somewhat unreasonable, but I think it's going to trend in a good direction going forward, but I'm not sure, but it looks like it's headed in a good direction. Like I said, advertisers are returning to Twitter. Apple's back at full ad spend, and I've had a number of conversations with the advertiser groups. And every time I've had those conversations, the advertisers have responded positively. And I've also just, because they're like, they basically, they end up reading the sort of mainstream media, and it's like, and then they end up with all the wrong impressions of what's going on. And I said, well, have you tried using Twitter? Do you see these things for yourself? And they're like, actually, it seems fine when we use Twitter. Like, yes, that's because it is fine. And so then, and then I also tell them, like, look, as we try to grow Twitter's user base, if a new user comes on Twitter and then is immediately attacked by trolls and dumped on, they're going to want to leave. So, because who wants to go? It's like going into a party or something and everyone just starts yelling at you. You're going to want to leave that party. Twitter does need to be a more welcoming environment for new users, and so the incentives are actually aligned. That if people come on and they see interesting, funny tweets, things that where they learn something new, or it's entertaining, it's funny, it's like that's the kind of thing that we should see more of, and that's consistent with what most advertisers want, I think, and what Twitter wants in order to grow the user base, and then just generally over time, it's like kind of people can be to some degree choose what sort of experience they like, just like you can choose a radio station. Like, some people want to listen to sort of smooth jazz, easy listening, or they may want to go to, pop music, or they want to go to heavy metal thrash. And, to each their own. Or if this was, do you want to have like full contact martial arts, or do you want to have light contact, or do you want to do yoga? And you can decide which one of those, what kind of experience you want. That's going to be important in order to have Twitter appeal to a broad audience. Yeah, so that's the rough game plan.
Tom, I'll let
Elon,
you got a question,
mentioned, I just wanted to ask really quick. He had mentioned different color check marks for verification for different entities. Was that still going to be part of the new verification process?
Yeah, so again, like the goal is like to say, how do you convey people using Twitter as quickly as possible and as clearly as possible what they're seeing. So there will be a gold check mark for commercial organizations, a gray check mark for government, and a blue check mark for verified individuals. And then there will also be an organizational affiliation logo. So like next to your check, if you, let's say, a verified user, if you are a professor at Stanford and Stanford is participating in identifying who is a professor, then there would be like a tiny Stanford logo that would appear next to your blue check mark. So then as you're scrolling, it's like, see, oh, this is actually a Stanford professor, or this person actually does work at Coca-Cola, and there's the clarity there.
Will there be a process for this to apply for an organization for, let's say you're a part of a small news organization and you want to apply for this status. Will it be available to the public, or is this something that's going to be very selective?
No, it will be available to the public. So it's sort of, so it's not going to be like an anointed set of companies. Now, there will be a strong policy against impersonation and deception. So if someone's attempting to deceive users, then their account will be suspended. That's yeah.
I've got a question here. I'll give it to Tom, just by a pretty notable person that doesn't want to disclose their identity, but it's a simple question. By the way, anyone that has a question, you could DM me. The team is checking all the DMs. The question is plans for crypto Twitter payments, whether it's going to be like WeChat or whether you have plans at all.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hell yeah, Dogecoin to the moon.
Doge to the moon.
Yeah,
I think we do want to have Twitter enable both regular payments and fiat currency and make it easier to transact with crypto. Yeah.
Okay, I've got another question here from a big YouTuber as well. Elon, one of the first. So they're asking, they want to bring YouTube creators to Twitter. What's your plan with? What's your Twitter creator plan, if there is one?
Yeah. So for video, we need to upgrade the Twitter system to be able to have longer video, and then enable creators to derive revenue from viewership, which is a combination of advertising, and these are obviously things that need to happen. Like I said, in order for these to happen, like you could have a wish list a mile long, but if the engine of engineering is not fixed, the wish list. So that's why I am focused on Twitter engineering first and foremost. In the absence of that, you could have a wish, whatever you wish for cannot be done because the engineering is not working.
Hey, I have a really great suggestion for you, Elon.
And right after Kim, I'll let Tom jump in right after you. Just Tom, sorry for delaying it so much. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Yeah, you know how foreign media is labeled on Twitter often as like Russian-controlled, state-controlled media? Why don't we do the same thing in the U.S. with all of these media organizations that are telling us go to war? This is all great. Like, why don't we label them as well, U.S. government state media?
No, I think that's a good idea. Because it's like SBF gave so much money to different media organizations that, and then they just write these puff pieces, and it's like, okay, we should be labeling that SBF affiliated media because it is. Like if you're going to write a puff piece about someone who gave you a ton of money, then the public should know that you maybe have a bias. So yeah, I mean, I think it should be if something is taking direction from the state, then that information should be made clear to the readers. Like who really has editorial control should be clear. Because that's all part of like trying to give users of Twitter the most accurate and truthful understanding of what's going on, and be able to calibrate what they read, see, or hear on Twitter, to be able to calibrate the truthfulness as a function of where is it coming from, who is the author, who is controlling this from an editorial standpoint. and so then they can apply reasonable judgment in that case.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that would be a really good thing to level the playing field, because when you want to find out about what's going on in Ukraine, and you get it from sources that are labeled in a certain way, and then the U.S. news sources are not labeled at all, the problem with that is that people think this source is trustworthy and this source is not trustworthy. So if Twitter has labels like this, then they need to be applied fairly also against media that is clearly pro-war and clearly infiltrated by commentators from the intelligence community who are telling us all this bullshit about why we have to be at war.
I agree. This is the maximum truth. Is the truth still set you free?
Tom, do you want to ask you? I know you've been waiting for a while, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
I have to sign off soon, so maybe just a couple more questions, and then I gotta go back to work here.
I'll let Tom jump in. He's been waiting.
Quickly, Elon,
yeah,
you
just
are the timeline
just before guys,
and we appreciate keep innovating and keep creating. Thank you.
And Elon, I'll shot his. Go ahead, Tom. I'll let you ask your question, Tom, and then I'll jump in. Go ahead, Tom.
I don't think Tom's here.
Yeah, so I'll jump in, Elon. My question to you, because Tom's it's not working on his end. It's actually a simple question. I'm going to shoot my shot. If I can get a DM on Twitter to have a line of communication, and then I can try to get you on, convince you to join more spaces. So it's not a question. It's just giving it a shot on my end. I appreciate you joining again.
This is Tom again.
Tom, go ahead, man. I said my word. Now it's your turn.
Thank you. This is Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch, Elon. Appreciate your public service and your transparency efforts here. My concern is, as the head of a watchdog group, is the government corruption in response, not only to what you potentially may uncover, but in response to what you're doing. And when you have the President of the United States from the podium celebrate his election victory by calling for a national security review of your activities, you have senators, focusing on you. You have other government agencies investigating you and your other businesses. Are you concerned, A, about the retaliation? And B, are you seeing evidence of it already?
You're muted, Elon.
Well, government is slow to act. So this is the thing about it that's important to appreciate about anything government related, is that they're not nimble, they are slow. So I think the actions that we'll see, and I think there probably will be some actions, will happen, but they'll happen slowly. And it's only been a month so far. But I would expect some. There's probably at least a few nefarious things that are in the works right now. I'd say it would be naive to assume that there are no nefarious things. And so I guess I will just expose them on Twitter and see what happens.
Well, the most important thing, you don't have any suicidal thoughts, do you, Elon?
I do not have any suicidal thoughts. If I committed suicide, it's not real.
Bro, that was dark.
That was a good one.
Clay, I know Elon has to jump off, so maybe one more question or one or two. Clay, and then Ian, I'll let you end it, Ian, because you've done a great job asking questions earlier. Clay, go ahead.
Yeah, Elon, this is Clay Travis with Outkick Fox News and radio show with Clay and Buck. You said earlier, and I think it's so important, that you were thinking about just letting everybody know when you get a governmental request to censor someone or take down tweets. What kind of process is in play there, and to what extent can that happen? Because I think you're right. The sunlight of the government being embarrassed when they're going after James Woods, for instance, would drastically reduce any attempts at censorship. What's the update there? What kind of time frame? And do you think that's able to be implemented?
You're muted, Elon.
I mean, as I said earlier, Twitter will do whatever it is allowed to do within the boundaries of the law to be as transparent and open as possible. And even if we currently are, and I don't know this to be the case, but if we are currently strained by the law, I think we will push to have the law modified to reduce those constraints, because I think we have to fight hard for free speech, which is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. And I think you'll see the proof will be in the pudding, and in the coming months, I think you'll see dramatic improvements in the transparency and trustworthiness of Twitter. Hopefully you've seen at least some of that already, and it will get better, and I think it will get better in an accelerating way, provided I don't accidentally suicide myself, which I'm not going to do.
Elon, thank you so much for your time today. You have been such a blessing to join us, to give us your insights. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to make that poll for Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, please.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what the public thinks of these two people and what they're fighting for.
Okay. I will do the poll, and I'll emphasize that I'm not making a judgment here. I'm just asking I'll do it right after this Twitter Spaces ends.
Just asking a question, right? Asking the public a question, just
that's right.
Taking a poll, yeah.
And final, Elon.
I'm not.
So I have a question. Okay,
this is just a question. I'm not.
So I got a question since this is the last one. What message do you have for all the haters and losers out there who are making fun of you or attacking Twitter? Said it was going to die like 4 weeks ago. What's your message?
Twitter is alive, baby. It's alive.
Oh, yeah.
More alive than it's ever been.
Hell yeah. Beautiful.
I look forward to the Tesla earnings call right here on Twitter with you, Elon Musk.
Yeah, well, I think it will work. I got the DM, so I assume the promise you made you, Kim, and the promise you made you, Tara, should go through. Elon, really appreciate you, and hope to see you again.
My DM, Mario.
Hope to see you back.
I got questions.
Hope to see you again soon, Elon. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Elon.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.